gang. Got a dub. Let's get it.
Big dub. Let's go.
Fever dub. Bow. Woo! Dubs.
It's giving sweep.
Aaliyah Boston puts on a masterclass. Lexie Hull gets a big bump on the noggin, and Aerial Powers shows that she is quite the rebounder, where the Indiana Fever blow out the Seattle Storm 95-75.
Okay, this is wild. The Indiana Fever just completely destroyed the Seattle Storm, and guess what? Caitlin Clark wasn't even on the court. Aaliyah Boston finally went full beast mode, playing exactly how fans have been begging her to, while Lexie Hull was in an absolute menace, turning every defensive hustle play into a massive momentum shift. Seattle looked totally flat, Indiana was buzzing with energy, and seriously, the scoreboard tells you everything you need to know.
Good job. Good job. Good job. Yes. 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 Okay, really great stuff. That's the most complete game we put together in a long time. We made more free throws than they attempted. Yo, hey, that is a difference maker for us, and that will be a difference maker for us. 22 assists on 36 made field goals. Total team effort.
Read that out.
And the MVP for this absolute turnaround, Aaliyah Boston stepped up like never before. Kelly, as in Kelsey Mitchell, also dropped a new franchise record for most points in a single season. Seriously, can we just pause for a second? What?
You're a dog.
Let me just add to it.
Hey, DJ.
But here's the burning question. Can the Fever actually keep winning consistently without Clark on the floor? Or was this just a lucky break? Let me know what you think in the comments below.
Just an absolutely massive win for the Indiana Fever. Really a great day for the Fever overall. There's no other way to put it. And going back in retrospect, when we look at those Minnesota Lynx games, you know, I didn't feel bad about the way the Fever played in those games. They hung tight with a Lynx team that is just genuinely a great team. By some of the metrics, historically great when you look at their net rating and the way they've been able to produce so far this year. Obviously, Feet Collier was only available for the second of those two games. Nonetheless, the Fever hung tough.
Alright, let's dive straight in with the most obvious point. Aaliyah Boston finally played like she wanted to dominate. I know that sounds a little harsh, but if you've been watching her, you get it. She's got the talent to be a total nightmare for any opponent, but sometimes she seems way too calm, almost too polite out there. But against Seattle, she flipped a switch. She drove hard, powered through contact, and finished strong. It was like she suddenly remembered she was the #1 overall pick, not just some other player in the paint.
Hung tough in those games, which probably should have been commended a little bit more given the competition. Then they smack the Seattle Storm. Now the Storm, not everything's great over there. I think the head coach, Noah Quinn, may be in some trouble. I mean, they have the bright future of Malonga, of course, but there's talent on that roster, and with a playoff spot on the line, they shouldn't be playing as poorly as they did in this one, where they just get dominated by the Fever. I mean, when you're suiting up Neko Gumake and Skylar Diggins and Gabby Williams, and you trade for Brittany Sykes, you expect better results than Seattle got. But on the flip side of that is the way that the Fever played. Unselfish, and the stars showed out. Because even with everybody that's been in and out of the lineup,
the Fever desperately needed that kind of play. Without Clark, their offense can sometimes just grind to a halt, forcing Kelsey Mitchell to constantly bail them out with tough, contested shots. But when Boston decides to take over, the entire game shifts. She was drawing fouls, getting those crucial and ones, and absolutely owning the boards. This forced Seattle's defense to collapse on her, which suddenly opened up space for Mitchell, Sims, and Hall to go to work. It's literally basketball 101, but it only works when your star big decides to show up and make it happen.
And Lexie Hull. And Lexie Hull is tough as nails. She took a shot, a headbutt, had to leave. The hope was it wasn't a concussion. Obviously it wasn't. She comes back in, steps into a three confidently, knocks it down. Everybody's pumped, including Stephanie White. Look at that Caitlin Clark shirt she's got on.
And then there's Lexie Hull. Look, she didn't need to drop 30 points. That's not her game. What she did do was fight through a brutal head-to-head collision with Gabby Williams, leave the game, get checked out, and come right back. Talk about grit. Her 5 points in the box score don't tell the whole story, because those 9 rebounds and countless hustle plays, diving for loose balls, aggressive boxing out, tipping passes are what truly swing possessions. Even if they don't go viral, Fever fans totally saw it. They know Hull's real value is her sheer toughness. Meanwhile, Seattle looked absolutely cooked. That's shocking, because on paper they're right there with Indiana in the standings, but tonight, zero depth. Their bench was a ghost town and their defense was soft, letting Boston do whatever she pleased in the paint. When the Fever took a lead in the third quarter, the Storm just completely folded. No counterpunch, no fight, nothing that screams contender. The box score highlights the Fever's balance. Mitchell dropped an efficient 21, Sims added 22, including a wild bank shot 3 that finally got the crowd buzzing, and even role players chipped in. Everyone looked surprisingly comfortable, which is rare when Clark isn't orchestrating. Usually it's pure chaos. Speaking of the crowd, here's the wild part. It was quiet. Dead quiet. Even with the Fever up by 20 and blowing Seattle out, the energy was flat. Because superstars create noise and Clark's absence was glaring. Fans still showed up in their Nike gear, but the arena felt like a regular Tuesday night game, not an electric atmosphere. That's the undeniable Clark effect. With her, every possession is theater. Without her, it's just solid basketball, missing that special spark. But this actually makes what Boston and Hull did even more impressive. They didn't just fill in, they proved this team can absolutely survive a night without Clark when they truly step up. And for the Fever, who are fighting for a playoff spot in the middle of the pack, wins like this are how you build that crucial cushion.
Brilliant all season long. Then Aaliyah Boston was a beast in this one too. You know, she really asserted herself, didn't have to deal with that front line that she had to deal with in Minnesota, and just that overall length and talent that Minnesota has that can be overwhelming. Seattle a little bit more disjointed, and good feed by Howard, by the way, there too.
But let's be real, it wasn't all perfect. Stephanie White's rotations are still baffling. Michaela Timpson barely saw 3 minutes before being shoved back in during garbage time, which makes zero sense when you're trying to develop a bench. You can't rely on Boston and Mitchell forever, right? And speaking of Boston, yes, she played amazing, but she still bricked a few wide open layups. A weird trend with some young bigs who have great touch in traffic but miss the easy ones. Fans definitely noticed, but were relieved she still finished strong. Still, she's gotta clean that up. The main takeaway here is clear. The Fever can beat good teams without Clark, but only if their stars show up big time. Boston has to dominate, Hall has to hustle, Mitchell has to be efficient, and Sims has to bring the energy. If even one of those pieces is missing, the whole thing falls apart. Seattle's collapse, though, also exposes a bigger truth about the WNBA right now. Outside of the top few teams, consistent depth is practically a myth. Rosters look great on paper, but completely fall apart when the bench comes in, which explains why the Fever can look like world beaters against Seattle and then lose to Dallas. Consistency is the real challenge. Yet, this game was a powerful reminder of Indiana's potential. Boston as a wrecking ball, Hall as the glue, Mitchell as the bucket getter, and Sims as the spark plug. Add Clark back into that and you've got a seriously scary lineup. Without her, it's just enough to win if everyone elevates their game. And to the haters who will inevitably downplay this, saying Seattle had an off night or the Fever got lucky, the scoreboard doesn't care. A win is a win, and one without your biggest star is twice as meaningful. This win wasn't just about the numbers, it was about showing they can punch back without leaning on Caitlin Clark's magnetic gravity every single possession. Everyone knows Clark warps defenses, drawing double teams and opening up the floor. Without her, defenses sag and dare the Fever to beat them straight up. That's why this result is so huge. It was execution, not luck. Let's dig deeper into Aaliyah Boston. Her biggest critique all season has been her passiveness. She has the physical tools, but too often she just facilitated. Against Seattle, she finally flipped the switch, demanding the ball and going through contact inside, becoming the alpha in the paint Fever fans have wanted since draft night. When Boston plays aggressively, everything changes. Opponents foul more, defenses collapse, and shooters get open. This game showed exactly why she was hyped as a generational center. She doesn't need Clark for perfect entry passes. She can create her own offense with force. That's the Boston Indiana needs every night. Now Lexie Hull, this woman has battled through so much lately, from elbows to head collisions, but her willingness to grind is what truly sets her apart. 9 rebounds as a guard is no joke. She fought through pain and stayed locked in defensively, making those critical dirty work plays that coaches adore, because honestly, those little plays decide games. You can't blow out a team without someone winning the gritty battles, and that was her collision with Gabby Williams could have easily sidelined her, but she came back, showcasing a toughness you simply can't teach. Without her effort on the boards, the Fever don't extend that lead. When your superstar is in street clothes, you need role players who embrace the chaos, and Hull did just that. Seattle, on the other hand, was truly lost. Jewel Lloyd is a scoring machine, but she had zero support. Their bench contributed almost nothing, which is embarrassing for a team fighting for playoff positioning. They looked flat, probably expecting Indiana to roll over without Clark. But instead, they got absolutely punched in the mouth. That's Seattle's core problem. They rely too heavily on 1 or 2 players, and when those players are slowed, there's no plan B. Back to Stephanie White, I still don't get her rotations, and I doubt she does either. Michaela Timpson riding the bench for almost the entire game, then getting garbage minutes when you're up by 20. It's a baffling way to develop young talent, burying them instead of building depth, but credit where it's due. White did push the right buttons for Boston, whether it was design plays or just letting Boston eat inside. The game plan finally ran through her, which is exactly how it should look when Clark is out. Boston as the anchor. If White can convince her to maintain that same aggression when Clark returns, the Fever suddenly have a 1-2 punch no team wants to face. Now the elephant in the room, the crowd. It was quiet, and in pro sports, atmosphere is half the experience. You'd expect a 30-point blowout to have fans roaring, but it sounded like a church service. Why? Clark wasn't there. She is the show, the magnet. Fans love Boston and respect Hull, but without Clark, the energy flatlined. This doesn't make the win meaningless, it just proves that superstars put butts in seats and voices in the rafters. It also shows how spoiled Fever fans have become. A year ago, they'd kill for any blowout win, but now they shrug off a 30-point victory if Clark isn't playing. This reflects how high expectations have climbed for Clark's second year. People want fireworks, not just wins, and that's actually a good thing. The bar has been raised. This victory also significantly boosts Indiana's playoff chances. Every win counts in a tight race, especially against teams in their tier. Beating Seattle means more than pride. It's about tiebreakers, seeding, and building momentum. If Clark returns soon, they could ride this into a solid playoff spot. If she's out longer, wins like this prove they won't crumble. Psychologically, that's huge for the locker room. Looking at the broader WNBA, the league thrives on rivalries and compelling storylines. While Indiana vs. Seattle isn't Lakers versus Celtics, games like this add fuel. Boston against Seattle's bigs, Hull against Gabby Williams, Clark watching in her new Nike gear. It all builds the narrative that fans desperately need beyond just scores. And the irony isn't lost here. Indiana, the team constantly accused of being too Clark dependent, just dismantled a playoff level opponent without her. The haters literally can't spin